welcome to the Advntrr Podcast, where we discuss the tips, tricks, and strategies to living a location-independent lifestyle. My name is Brad Osborne, and I'm here with my very good friend Dieter.
Hello, everybody.
That's him. That's Dieter.
It's me.
So today we're going to be talking about making friends, and specifically we're going to be talking about how to do it really quickly, really effectively, and even if you don't know a single person in a new place, like if you travel to a new city or new country, new culture, even if you don't know the language, pretty much any situation, Dieter and I have had tons of practice making friends with complete strangers in pretty much, like every situation you could possibly think of. So we have a lot to say, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. There's a lot of cool tricks we've learned and a lot of mistakes we've made. And it's actually pretty easy once you kind of know the basic rules to follow. You'll find that not only is this applicable when you're traveling, but it actually applies to your whole life. Every single day you can make more friends, you can, build stronger connections with people at work, you can meet lots of people, build your social network, all sorts of great things. So I'm pretty excited. How about you, Dieter?
Me too. Yeah, can't wait to get started.
All right. So we will start off by doing a little description here of what exactly, kind of zeroing in on the exact skill we're talking about. So we're basically talking about making friends fast in a completely new place to enhance your travel experience, build your social network, enrich your cultural understanding, and get help and support to make your time in this new place more fun, interesting, and memorable. And once again, we will mention, as we probably will all the time on our podcast, that this is another one of those things that people think is an innate ability, like your social skills, basically. But it's totally a skill. It's just that. It's a skill. It's not an innate quality. It's a skill that you can improve no matter who you are. If you're an introvert, if you're an extrovert, doesn't matter. Either one, you can get way better at making friends and building social connections. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
And I think you and I probably know better than anyone that it's something you can get better at, being socially awkward nerds for the first 20 years of our lives.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Dieter and I both came from a group of sort of, nerdy, but not in the cool way. Like, it's kind of cool now to be a nerd. Just like legitimate nerd. Really shy, at least for me. I was extremely shy, very kind of judgmental of people.
Interpreting every friendly hello as an offense.
Oh, yeah.
Like that,
Wow.
Looking at the floor a lot.
Yeah, looking at the floor. Woo.
I used to remember those are the good old days.
I used to wear a hoodie and just like pull it over my eye so I wouldn't have to look at anybody. I used to think that people having small talk with me was condescending and it was fake. So why are they even talking to me if they don't want to have like a really long, deep conversation? Ooh, man.
Do you remember in November when you were in Savannah when we got in that Uber with that basically Uber nerd driving the Uber?
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know, you asked him about how his night was going. It was like, oh, good, I guess, because all the other drivers are being stupid or something like that. But it was just, we were looking at each other thinking, we used to be like this.
Yeah.
We know he just needs a hug.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I know he puts on this really tough front, like he doesn't need anybody or like anybody, but we know deep down he just doesn't think they're ever going to like him, so he's rejecting them. Because that's the journey that we've been through. So I think we're pretty damn qualified to talk about this.
Oh, yeah. So let's do.
Yeah. So why would you be interested, other than all of the fantastic reasons we've already given you? There are actually some even more tangible rewards, I guess, that sort of happen as a byproduct of upping your social skills. Some of those, when you're traveling, can absolutely make or break your experience. For example, people will help you more. The more they like you, the more they will be open to helping you. So
Yeah, and also if they're not aware of your existence, then they can't help you. So
that's a very good
so
point.
that's why you want to meet them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So once you get better at meeting people from total stranger to, becoming an acquaintance, and then also deepening that relationship very rapidly. So both of us know how to do what usually takes people months or years to do. Like building a friendship can usually, I would say, it would at least take months in normal life. You know,
Yeah.
say a coworker. You just kind of maybe walk by each other every day for a few months, and then eventually you start to maybe talk a little bit more and learn a little bit more about them, and you know, and that's kind of how we normally make friends. But you and I can make friends literally in an instant. And
Yeah.
people often feel like they've known us forever, and we feel like we've known them forever. So
Yeah, and they trust us. Yeah, I've been in sticky situations as well that saved me just because I came across as
yeah.
trustworthy. How fool they were. Yeah.
You even fooled me into
And then
doing a podcast with you.
then I stole their silverware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is powerful stuff. Best, use it wisely. Don't use it for good, not for evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, just really kind of a brief example on that is we'll talk more about the process we went through to whereby this happened, but on our last trip there in Savannah, Georgia, we ended up staying with people that I had only met one night, and they let us stay with them for like 2 weeks, and they gave us their apartment by the end because they were college students, and they were going on vacations and the semester was over and stuff. But one of the roommates moved out, so we ended up living in their apartment alone for like the last week, wasn't it? They just gave us their keys, totally trusted us, and we had only known them. I had only met them one night. You had never met them. They trusted you just because they trusted me so much, and obviously when they met you, they fell in love. As we all do, Dieter.
Breaking hearts.
Yeah. So that's something that can happen. That's the kind of thing we're talking about that can happen when you get really, good at this. And it's really easy to get much, much better. Trust us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of a crazy example. People will trust you more. They will like you more. They'll look for opportunities to help you. Which can really, really make a huge difference in your travels. I would say, unless you just have infinite money and you can just pay for luxurious hotels or something, this might be the most important travel skill to have.
It might be the most important skill in general for anyone ever.
Good point.
With any goal.
Good point, sir.
It always starts with that. Yeah.
It does.
But
we'll zoom in on travel, because that's what our podcast is largely about.
I'm sorry for starting to vague.
No. That's a very great point. It might be the best skill, period.
Yeah.
But you can see it easily in travel, because pretty much everything you do really hinges on this skill. Unless, of course, like I said, there's Dexter, by the way. You might hear him from time to time, protesting the arrival of the mailman. Dexter's my 2-year-old Australian Shepherd puppy, so he gets a little excited. So this skill is so important. It's so, if you don't have it, I can't imagine traveling without being able to make friends quickly. It would be pretty lonely and miserable.
I mean, there's a few. I mean, that's the apartment in Savannah was one example, but I remember several years ago, when we traveled together, you ended up going home early, and I ended up going to Austin.
Mm-hmm.
But long story short, my passport was broken. All my cards had either been expired or blocked. And so I basically didn't have access to money. And before that, me and Brad had sort of an arrangement that I would transfer money through PayPal to his account, and then he would get money from the ATM, you remember?
Yep.
So But in the end, you weren't there to help me. And I ended up couch surfing with some people in Austin, Texas. And they were, I found this out afterwards, but when I was sort of in a panic, so I was asking, hey, does anyone have a PayPal account so that I could do the thing I usually did with you?
Yep.
And apparently afterwards, I found out that that sounded very Nigerian prince lawyerish. Like they were like, so transfer funds in return for cash. Like, yeah. So they were like, yeah, sorry, like you can only stay here a couple of days, and they weren't offering me an extension. But I was being friendly. I was becoming good friends platonically with the girlfriend of of the guy that was hosting me originally.
Sure.
And I was like, yeah, just telling her my story one night, like, yeah, I'm just in a little bit of trouble. And she's like, well, normally I don't host people, but I get a very good vibe from you, so you can stay on my couch. So I ended up doing it. That probably saved my life because
Yeah.
I had like $100 to get through 7 days of living.
Yeah.
And thanks to her, I actually could buy food, and she would sometimes make breakfast, and so that was very cool. And
Yeah.
I really believe like that's an example. If you don't have social skills, if you just, think everybody's against you, and you don't know how to communicate, then at some point you might end up under a bridge.
Very good point. Yeah.
And, talking about that, like the next thing as well is like people will help you, but not just for lodging, but for safety in general. Like,
Yeah.
an example, like, well, people, if you meet local people, they can inform you a lot more about what places to go and what places not to go. Something that me and you, we didn't do
Yeah.
last time when we were in Medellin. We basically ignored all warnings and went with a strange man to a part of town where we shouldn't have gone.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah, we found ourselves running. Do you want to tell the whole story, or?
Oh no, you go for it. You got this. Yeah, we can tell the whole story.
So one night we went out here in Poblado, which is sort of the neighborhood where all the backpackers hang out. It's also one of the richer neighborhoods here. And we were just having some beers, and this American guy started talking to us. Can't remember his name, but yeah, anyway, he had been coming here for about 10 years every year for his vacation. So for 2 months, he would just hang out here, and I think just basically hang out with prostitutes and,
Yep.
people who sell coke or something.
Yep.
Um,
We'll tell you why we believe that in a moment.
yeah, exactly. So he asks us if we wanna see some another part of town, like he was from the center, he was about to go back there, so he's like, hey, you guys want to go have a beer over there, and he was like, yeah, this is a real cool place, really cheap beer, and all the women will love you because you look so white.
Yeah.
And so of course, yeah, we had to go with him. So we get in a cab and we go over there, but yeah, we ended up getting out of the cab a few blocks from the bar, so we started walking. And all of a sudden, a couple of kids come up to us. Well, kids, I don't know, teens
Yeah.
come up to us and I know, just start asking for change, which happens a lot. So it's like, no gracias, blah, 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 and keep walking. But one of them, they start to like follow us, and another one joins them, and they start to touch, I think, the other guy's pockets.
Mm-hmm.
So the other guy all of a sudden goes like, no, fucking no. And he whips out a baton,
Mm-hmm.
which, yeah, triggered some fear responses. And so those guys as well were just like, holy shit, a baton. So they pulled out knives.
Yep.
So we were like, all I heard was, holy fuck, they've got knives. We got to run.
Yeah.
I didn't really see them myself, but
I
yeah,
did.
Yeah,
I saw
know.
those knives. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah, that it wasn't exactly a high point.
I
But
literally
so
thought I was about to die. Dieter had no idea. He was like, "Oh, I guess we're running now."
I guess we're running, and getting some exercise. We start running, and they chase us a little bit, but we like run through a couple of red lights, I think, and then
Yeah.
just we were, yeah, a block or so away from the bar, so we run into the bar, And after that, I think we were all sort of in shock. Me, the least, because I just didn't really realize what was going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, what happened was we got the beers, we talked to the owner about what happened, and he was like, "Oh shit, yeah, that's not good, blah blah blah." And a lot of people over there were, because we looked so different, they started introducing themselves and each other, and I don't know, giving us things and being nice, and so we started cheering everybody and having little conversations and calm, basically took the time to calm down a little bit. Um, but I'm guessing the point of all of that is that first of all, if we had listened in the first place, to people, we wouldn't have gone there, because everybody I tell this story to over here, that we told it to last time, said no, 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 you shouldn't go there when it's dark. Like,
Yeah.
that's the dumbest thing you could have done.
They wouldn't go there. Natives,
like natives,
citizens of Medellin would never go to this part of the city at that time of night, basically.
Yeah. And second of all, I mean, I was convinced like that was the thing to do afterwards, was just like get friendly with everybody in that bar. Because if those guys had like followed us and then come in or something, or like picked a fight as soon as we walked out.
Yeah.
By then we would already have some rapport with a lot of people. Now, I'm not saying it might sound a little condescending to go like just train them all to be your soldiers.
Right.
Like just use them, in
Right.
some way, But it's just an advantage of, if you're friendly with people and you treat them with respect, and then when things go south, you're going to be their friend, So,
right. And it might help to paint the picture a little bit more. We found out by going to that bar and the next one that we were basically in a very, very shady part of the city where most of the people around us were indeed prostitutes, drug dealers, even those guys in the bar that were very friendly to us and, were like buying us beers and stuff. They were really awesome, very cool, nice guys, but they were a rough crowd. It was like basically like a biker bar. They were, like video casino games in there. It wasn't like a posh place where all the young partiers hang out. It was like a very, very shady bar.
Yeah.
But despite that fact, we were still able to make friends with the people in there very quickly. I mean, literally within moments. And they were very quickly warning us, like, basically, you got to watch out around here.
Yeah.
We're from here and we don't mess around. So, look, you and I stood out. So, they were very quick to warn us that we should probably watch ourselves around here.
Yeah, and it's good that you remind me of part 2 of that night, because one of the guy that we ended up talking to the most, whose name I also forgot.
Yeah.
The one whose phone was full of candies.
Yeah.
Oh boy. He was super nice. I mean, as well, like we can talk about drug dealers and prostitutes like we were in some kind of a cartoon episode, but
right.
That guy probably was a drug dealer, and he was just very nice and actually helped us to like a trustworthy cab driver to get us out of there.
That's right. Yeah. So again, 3 times in this situation. Number 1 was the mistake of not asking our friends, if it was a good idea to go to that part of the city. Number 2 was the ability, once we got into that bar, to rapidly make friends within moments with all these like tough kind of biker looking dudes. In case we, they might have been inclined to help us if we really needed it. The owner, I know, felt terrible that we had experienced this in his neighborhood. He felt very ashamed. And I believe he bought us a beer. I think so, or he gave us a good deal or something.
Yeah.
And then third, we instantly made friends with this other guy, this perhaps drug dealer, but whatever. He was very kind to us. He was excited that we were hanging out in his part of the city. And the reason why is because we are both very familiar and practice a concept called giving value, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But that is basically like our modus operandi for life.
Yeah.
We give value to anybody and everybody, unless they've really pissed us off, then we might turn that off. But generally, we give value to everybody. And by doing that, he gave back to us in the way that, because we showed him respect, we showed him kindness, and he gave back to us in the way that he could, which was to ask his cab driver friend to take us back home, which was very, very useful at that time.
No, yeah, especially because my phone wasn't working anymore, so I couldn't call a cab.
Yeah, and we were constantly being approached by prostitutes and random street vendors, and I don't know. We definitely stuck out. Our
American friend was sound asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
there's some lessons in there.
What we talk about some of the fun parts as well.
Yeah, let's talk about some fun parts
instead of avoiding, certain doom.
Yeah. All right. So one of the really amazing gifts that you get from being, good at making friends quickly is that you get a much deeper, richer experience of the local culture.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that you definitely get a sense for if you do couch surfing or anything similar. So you end up going to places that you never would have known about without your local guides. So you make friends with locals, and sometimes the locals aren't even natives. They're just other, expats that have lived there for a while, right? That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Or they're natives who have lived there their whole lives. And it's so cool. It's so amazing because while everybody else is sort of traveling the traditional path of going to the tourist locations and going to other places where, everybody is a tourist, and the drinks are usually really expensive. The food's really expensive. Like everything's usually the highest price in those areas.
Yeah.
And the least sort of originality. You end up going to these gems, these awesome. I remember once in Germany. I mean, probably both of us could come up with tons of different stories where this is true, but I know I ended up going to this punk bar that I just absolutely know there was a really crazy cool concert there, and I know I never would have ended up there without knowing my couch surfing host,
Yeah.
That's funny. We've both got dogs barking.
Yeah, I think mine are just street dogs trying to murder each other or pick a fight.
Yeah.
Being on the other end of that as well. Like, for example, last year, a year and a half ago or something, I hosted a girl. She was American, but she had lived in Tokyo her whole life. So, which was, from my end, already a very cool cultural experience, getting that perspective. But she was staying for a night, and the next day we were going to go, me and a friend were going to go to a wedding next to Brussels.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl was actually going to go to a town very close to where that wedding was. So I was like, hey, how about I just ask if you can come? Because I never had a +1. I wasn't the +1 kind of guy,
Yeah.
Just hoping for a sad bridesmaid or something. And so I call my friend, and she's like, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? She's like, I'm just shaving my legs for my wedding. And I'm like, cool, can I bring a +1? And she's like, first of all, she goes, a +1? Who is this girl?
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I said it was a couch surfer, and she was like, yeah, sure, why not? This girl ended up joining me as my date for the wedding. So which was really cool, because afterwards she was like, you guys gave me the best couch surfing experience ever, met all the locals and got to experience a traditional Belgian wedding, so to speak.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's cool to give that, and that's exactly what you receive as well at times, you never really know what to expect, but sometimes you're just gonna end up in the right place at the right time with the right people, and more cool things will happen,
Yeah, that's it. It's really an amazing way to get a whole new depth to your experience of another person's perspective or culture, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess that's pretty much what we have to say about that.
Yeah.
So we keep mentioning our ability to do this, like to build a connection really quickly. Why, in your opinion, is that so important that you can do it quickly, especially when you're traveling? Because normally you'd get to know somebody over weeks, months, or years, like everyone does in their life, and they slowly, build a little tribe of connections. But
Yeah.
and I think the people that are listening, if you're listening to this, I'm sure you're interested in being able to do it not in weeks or months or years, but in maybe 15 minutes or maybe a night or maybe a week or so,
Yeah.
So what's so important about being able to do it quickly?
Well, when you're traveling, you're gonna, basically you're not moving there, not yet.
Yeah.
So even if you're staying a couple of months or like you're just feeling out a place, the quicker you meet people, the how should I put this? Like the quicker you meet people, like the quicker you get a feel for that place, and you can decide if it's your thing or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as well, like in general, it's just gonna help you get the most out of your experience. So if you're in a place like you're just traveling through Europe and you're just in some city for 3 or 4 days, you want to be able to make friends for that very night, like you want to
Mm-hmm.
be able to not dine alone, especially if you're traveling alone. It's just sad to
Yeah, and that's not a judgment. That's just something that both of us have experienced, because I've definitely had trips where I was more alone. And at first I get excited about it. I'm like, oh, yes, I don't have to, I get to have some alone space, whatever. But after about a day or two, it gets real old for me anyways.
yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
both you and I are pretty introverted people. We spend a lot of time kind of thinking about our own things and by ourselves. So we're definitely fine with being alone. But man, you don't realize what alone means until you're in another country or city that you don't know anybody, and maybe
Yeah.
you don't even know the language, you don't know the culture, and then you're really alone. And yeah, so I find that I start to go a little crazy after a couple days of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
me too.
that's kind of another motivation to get good at it is, you know, it's the more fun path.
Yeah, that's definitely a motivation that'll grow as you spend more time. Like, because yeah, you're right. I didn't say sad as a judgment. I said sad as that's the feeling I had when,
Yeah,
when I didn't have
yeah,
anything to do.
exactly.
Yeah, so that will grow as your stick to run away from, so to speak.
Right.
Like it's going to be a good motivation to learn
Yeah.
to do this.
Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe one of the things, that you have to do, we'll talk about a lot of really cool strategies and techniques to actually get better at this really fast. But one of them is just sort of to jump in. It's probably going to be uncomfortable in the beginning. And so start having these experiences where you don't have any other options.
Yeah.
You're stuck somewhere and you're going to either have to make friends or get really bummed out and be alone.
Yeah, exactly. And not just, I mean, like first of all, it's very cool to have drinking buddies, eating buddies,
Mm-hmm.
just people to spend time with, maybe
Yeah.
people to just visit things with. But also the aftermath, like if you consistently meet people in all these places, you're gonna grow a global network of friends. Like
Yeah.
there's gonna be a time a year later when you're like, I met those people from Munich that one time, and I'm
Yes.
going to Munich, so let's hit them up. And yeah, that's a very cool thing to have as well.
And that makes me realize too that you and I, when we meet people, it's so cool because it really does feel like I'm going to be friends with this person for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like not everybody, obviously, but I have so many, you and I both have so many people literally all over the world who even though I haven't spoken to them in years, would
Yeah.
would immediately give me a place to stay. Man, yeah, I don't even know if we mentioned that clearly. We did talk about how people will tend to help you more, but that's one very tangible benefit is, I mean, I have places to stay all over the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I already know, so many different cities all over the world that if I go there, I already have a place to stay. It's so awesome. That might be actually like the most immediate, like cool benefit, period.
Oh
Is
yeah.
cultural experience and, all that stuff. But man, I actually have a place to crash, like all over the world.
Yeah. It's like your global safety net almost.
Yeah.
And
And
not just in the first degree, like to their friends as well. They
yeah.
might, you put something on Facebook and those friends you met might have friends. They might not be able to help you out, but they might have friends that can help you out.
Yeah. Or they might, if you say you want to move to that city, they might say, oh, well, let me see if any of my friends are looking to sublet their apartment or something.
Yeah, for example, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had friends make some of those offers, like, oh, hey, if you want to move here, I'll start asking around. I'll start seeing if anybody's renting out their place or selling their place, whatever. So,
And that's another thing because you might ask yourself like why would I learn this specifically? Like what's the motivation here? But honestly, like sometimes you basically don't know yet
yeah.
all the profit you're gonna get from this. Because I mean a good example is with those girls that you met in Savannah. Like
Yeah.
you didn't meet them thinking that one day I'll need a place to stay, You
No
just met
way.
them because they were cool.
Yeah.
It was just a friendly chat. And then the why ended up being, well, if we hadn't met them, we would have been in trouble.
Right. Yeah. You and I we kind of told this story on the last podcast, but we basically didn't have a place to stay through some circumstances.
Yeah.
And so then I start, thinking, or we start talking about different options that we have. And one of the possibilities is, I don't know, maybe those girls that I met and, built a connection with, maybe they could help us out somehow. Maybe they could find us. Maybe they know somebody who would let us crash with them, or maybe they know a place that's cheaper that we could stay, or, they might know, oh, hey, if you go one town over, the hotels are really cheap or something. We don't know.
Yeah.
But it ended up being lifelong friendships. They want us to move back. You know, stuff like that. So yeah, we've talked a lot about why you would want to be good at this and the kind of things that you can get or things that you can experience. I really, both of us want to stress that it's not about getting things. That's not the motivation here behind being able to make friends and build connections. It's not about what you can get. It's about really like what you can give. And that's, so now we're going to talk about some ways that you can start working on this and you can start seeing results immediately. We've got a few just kind of big ideas, and then we've got some specific techniques and tactics that we've picked up through the years. And then we have Mr. Dieter is going to treat us to walking us through his 4-step easy peasy friend making system.
Trademark.
Trademark. And that will provide a nice little blueprint for you to make friends very, very quickly and very intelligently without wasting a bunch of time in any city all over the world. Even if you don't know the language, you don't know anybody, etc., etc. So, numero uno on how you can start to get better at this skill set is a kind of a mindset. So once again, you want to do it to be a cool person and not to get things. So we've mentioned that a few times. It's just really important to stress. Like, it's not about what you can get out of other people. It's about developing yourself, your skills, enriching your experiences and being a really cool experience in someone else's life. Think of it from their perspective. You want to be a happy memory. You want them to be thinking you're going to be a lifelong friend too, because what an amazing experience. rare is it in most people's lives that they get to, meet somebody so quickly and feel a connection and genuinely trust and maybe even, love them as a friend or more,
Yeah.
That's such a rare thing in life. And when you get, better at this, you can provide that experience for a lot more people. And the other thing about, your intentions here is that people can sense your true intentions. So you can't really mask it. If you're just using people to try to get, a free place to crash or whatever, you might be able to pull off some tricks here and there, but it's a pretty rough path to go down. It's going to bite you in the end. People can figure you out. So, just work on realizing all the good things that it's providing the world and focus on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really realize how, I mean, most people in the world don't realize how transparent they are. I think I had this as well in the past. You try to get someone from someone, people are just going to feel it. Yeah, just like you say.
Yeah. So if maybe you've never really thought about things that way, not really sure where to start, two really great places to start internally are cultivating gratitude and humility. So if you weren't raised with those sound like intrinsic values, but they're both, as we will say a bajillion times, they're both skills that you can build. So gratitude is a skill, and it's really easy to work on just every day. Think of something that you're grateful for. It helps a little bit if you write it down and make it a ritual, just one thing that you're like really excited about and you're just grateful for it. And once you do this, it'll kind of flip a switch and your brain will start to notice more and more things that you're grateful for every day. And this attitude will just completely change your life. Even if you're already really good at making friends and everything, the more and more gratitude you have, it's just going to like emanate from you, and people are going to be so happy to be around you, so excited.
Yeah.
And feel they'll trust you more because your intentions will genuinely be better. Yeah, that kind of brings up another point here with these things that we're talking about is one of the best ways that you can make sure that you're doing this when you travel is to practice it in your normal life every day, so that it's second nature when you're traveling. If you're in your normal life, you're very closed off, you're sort of, I don't know, just maybe using people, probably you wouldn't think of that of yourself, but, check in and see if you might have some of those tendencies. I think we all do from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But just start practicing this in your daily life every single day, and it'll transform your life. But when you go to travel, the skills will be right there for you because you're already good at them. So those are some mindset things. Now we're going to get into some very specific tactics that you can use because Dieter and I are both, into things like tactics, strategies, techniques, tips and tricks.
Dominance.
Yeah. Become a skill building, language learning ninja who can build friends in 5 minutes or less. I don't know.
Anything ninja and I'm sold.
Yeah, I know. Me too. We're such dorks. So, number one, tactic or strategy, whatever, for building your people skills is a concept that Dieter and I were both familiarized with through a guy named Joshua Pellissier, who is a life coach, dating coach, mostly helping guys kind of get better at social skills so that they can improve their chances of meeting high quality women. And he's a really smart dude. He's a really great teacher and coach. And one of his best, most brilliant things that he brought to all of his students was the concept of giving value. So basically, this is the idea that most people go around every day trying to figure out how they can take value from people. How do I get that person to do what I want? How do I get that person to like me? How do I get, It's very, how do I get more for me from this person? You're always trying to get something from people. And what Joshua said that completely changed your life, my life, and literally hundreds of thousands of people was that instead you should flip that around and think about what you can give to people, how you can make their day better, how you can make their life better.
Yeah.
And this skill is absolutely the number one root of what makes you and me so good at making friends quickly and making long-lasting relationships quickly. Giving value,
This is something because giving value, I mean, this sounds big, but it could be as easy as acknowledging people,
Yes.
Like if you're shaking hands with everybody except for one person, then that one person's going to be like, what the hell did I do?
Yeah.
And also if you're thinking about what can I get from people, a lot of time that is just acknowledgement, attention, respect, recognition for your skills or whatever. If you're the person that gives that to those people, like that recognition and those compliments and those good feelings,
Yes.
you become almost like a drug to them, like you become that source of good feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to have you around to get more. And yeah, that's basically, that's how I see it. That's how I sort of frame how giving value is so damn valuable,
Yeah. It really makes the world a better place. The more people that flip the switch in their mind from taking value and trying to get from people to giving value and try to give. I mean, it's not as simple or as trite as saying like, oh, I like your shoes. Like, that's nice. That's a good thing. But you can do a little bit better, and it's, again, just like everything, it's a skill that you can practice every day and get a little bit better every day. Mm-hmm. But, just kind of think of something that you genuinely appreciate about this person and just tell them. That's a really quick and easy way. Or, yeah, like you said, acknowledging people, especially those who aren't used to getting acknowledged.
Yeah.
So for a couple examples, like, beautiful girls are used to getting acknowledged, right? Like everybody acknowledges them. Yeah. But say a shy person who maybe doesn't, dress for to get attention, and I'm not saying that as a judgment either. I dress to get attention too, but sometimes I don't. So anyways, if you can recognize those people who aren't used to getting attention and then give them value, they will just light up. They will open a lot of doors for you. They will basically, this is the basic idea behind giving value. And again, you can't think of this you can't think of this as a way to get something from people because that negates the whole thing. But what naturally happens most of the time is that when you give somebody a value, like you give them a great compliment, you notice something about what they're doing, what they wear, how they talk, where they're from, and you just say, like they say they're from, Belgium, and you go, wow, that's so cool. I've never met anybody from Belgium. What are some like really amazing things that you've noticed since leaving Belgium that you miss about home, right?
Yeah.
That would be like a really high value question to ask somebody because it lets them talk about where they're from. It lets them know that you think it's cool that they're from Belgium,
Yeah.
So.
I think a rule of thumb for me is the effect of the value that you give is greater if it's about something that's closer to their identity,
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. Beautiful girls get acknowledged all the time, but a beautiful girl that's really into biology, for example, will get acknowledged for her looks, but she will light up, and then that'll be normal to her, but she will light up if you acknowledge her. If you just ignore the looks part, you just acknowledge her for the biology thing.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that, you basically just need to listen to what people are saying,
Yes.
Like you need to listen for those clues and then go for those. Another thing as well is, when specifically to traveling and when you're abroad, some cultures aren't used to getting value, I think, from foreigners in general. Like if you're like I saw this in Thailand where we were. I was talking to this. I don't know. I was in these bungalows and I met these kids from Sweden, and one of them was, at one night we were at the beach, and these kids were playing with fire poi, and everybody was drinking, and you have these things called. Well, they drink buckets over there. It's an unusual term, but it's just like a small, colorful play bucket that they fill up with alcohol, and then you can share it with everybody. So you have all these bucket stands. So there was this guy called Charlie with Charlie's Buckets. And this kid I was talking to from Sweden, he was like, "Watch, I'll show you how it's done." So we go over there and he starts going like, "Yeah, I have Thai roots, I'm from here, like why don't you give me a huge discount?" And he's like, "Well, I can give you it for 100 less or something, so like for 400 or 350." And the kid was like, What if I go over there, they give it for 200?" So Charlie says, "Well, go over there then." But he was basically just being a cunt to the Thai guy, to Charlie. And so when he went off, I went back to Charlie. I was like, "Hey man, sorry for my friend being a condescending cunt." So we ended up talking for basically 2 hours. He was like showing me all of the pictures on his phone of his family, and like I don't know, I think he was trying to sell some niece or or a sister or something to me. I don't know what was going on. But yeah, we talked a lot, and then I got my drink and I paid full price, and yeah. But it just goes to show that I think a lot of these people just, when you're in this culture like Asian cultures, and you have all these foreigners coming through that basically only hang out with backpackers and are condescending to people, to locals, and think that everybody's trying to rip them off, and is just a little kid. When you're the guy that actually gives value, I think they're gonna appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's kind of reminds me of this thing. I don't know if this is all over the world or just in America, but they say, like, girls will say, like, don't pay attention to how the guy you're on a date with treats you or something. I can't remember the beginning, but basically, like, pay attention to how he treats the janitor or the server. Pay attention to how he treats somebody who isn't used to getting all the attention, right? So in a restaurant, if the person you're with is kind of rude to the server because they see themselves as higher, better than the server, then that, they're not a value giving person. So
that is so funny, because I was reading on Quora recently, just quickly. There was this question from this girl that was asking everybody like how she could convince her boyfriend to get more class, and she was mentioning how he like was being too friendly with waiters and stuff. And everybody just went off flaming on her, like, "Oh no, like your boyfriend actually talks to waiters and service staff." Like, "Oh man, yeah, time to class up. Like, it's time, maybe he should teach you some class." So
exactly.
But that comes down to this.
Yeah. So, give people, talk to the people who are sweeping the floors while you're hanging out somewhere, because those people are awesome, and they often get overlooked because people think like, "Oh, I'm better than them." So
yeah,
that's kind of a really good mentality to have in general.
Yeah.
So another technique that you can use to build relationships really quickly, faster than most people, is a concept called mirroring. I mean, I've heard it referred to in a lot of different ways, but basically the idea is kind of start paying attention to people around you. And when you're talking to them, start to notice their body language. Just kind of notice, the way they make facial expressions, how they stand, if they're slouched or if they stand up tall. And then a really important one when you're talking to somebody is their voice, how they use their voice. And there's a few things to pay attention to. And this will all sound kind of overwhelming at first, but if you start paying attention and practicing it, just like everything, you're going to get better and better every day. And you're going to start noticing like all this crazy cool stuff that they're telling you about themselves without actually telling you. So you pay attention to their voice volume, how loudly they speak, and their speed, how quickly they speak, and their tone. Tone is probably the hardest one to pick up on, especially if you haven't been training in that. But volume and speed are pretty easy to pick up on. And the basic idea here is if you want someone to feel comfortable with you, just match their behavior. And you kind of have to do it in a way that's not weird and awkward. But I don't think most people won't notice anyways. They'll just get a feeling that they like you or they feel comfortable around you. So if you naturally speak very quietly, but the person you're talking to speaks loudly, try to speak louder. And match their volume, because they obviously that's the volume they want to be speaking at. That's kind of how they deal with life, probably just being loud. And if you're also loud, now you don't have to be loud in every other part of your life, but when you're hanging out with that person, kind of work on matching their tempo if you can. I mean, I know sometimes it's kind of tiring for me, but generally, I'm pretty good now at matching someone else's speed. If they speak very slowly and quietly, then do the same, because they're instantly going to feel connected to you. Because if other people just kind of like plow over them with speaking fast and loud, that's going to make them uncomfortable. They don't want to be talked to fast and loud. So slow down your speech, and you will see a very magical effect of building connections with people very quickly.
And that's the whole thing about people basically being attracted, I guess, to people that are like them.
Yeah.
So you can match them a little bit more. Stopping at being inauthentic, of course.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, that's an important point to make. Not just pretend to be them.
Right. Yeah. It's got to be subtle, and it's got to come from that place of gratitude, humility, and genuine interest in them that we've been talking about the whole time.
Yeah.
All right. We've got some more tactics and techniques, but I think we can talk about those on later podcasts.
All right.
So let's wrap up here by getting into the 4-step easy peasy friend making system, copyrighted and patented and trademarked by Advntrr Podcast.
It sounds so grand, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my easy peasy friend making system trademark has been developed because there was this one time. So in the past, I always tried to be a real traveler, so I wasn't allowed to. I wasn't allowing myself to go, to just hang out with other travelers all the time, because I had to get to know the local culture. So so it was couch surfing or nothing. But this one time I was like, I've got a month of nothing to do, and so I just want to get out there. And I bought myself an Interrail ticket, which is called a Eurail ticket for people outside of Europe.
Okay.
So that's basically you for a set number of days, you get to take as many trains as you want in a certain region. So I bought one of those, and then I was just like, my only goal is to just have fun, have people to drink with, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, maybe learn something about the local culture, but
okay,
that's second. So that was sort of the mindset I had. So what I did was basically the next couple of things. First of all, I would book all my hostels that I booked were party hostels. Oh, the fruit guy.
Fruit guy
alert.
Aguacate.
Aguacates. So that's the first step, was booking all my hostels, making sure they were party hostels.
Okay.
Some people are going to cringe right now, probably, when I say this, but
yep.
The idea is basically they're called that because they're set up to socialize. So they have, every night of the week, they have something going on, whether it's games inside or like pub crawls or something, and they have a large common room and blah blah blah. And everybody who goes there is also kind of in the mood to meet people. So that was the first thing. Second step was arriving, checking in, lying down on my bed for 10 minutes until the first person walks in, and then introducing myself. So that was very easy. Just someone walks in and go like, "Hey, my name's Dieter. I'm from Belgium. Who are you? What are you guys doing here?"
Easy if you've been working on the social skills that we've covered in this podcast every other day.
Exactly, yeah. You need to have the habit, I think, a little bit at least to the barrier has to be low enough for you to just go to have that trigger. You see someone and you just kind of want to talk to them.
Yep.
Like with the little boy mindset.
Yeah.
Ooh, person, let's see what they're about.
Yeah.
And then you can have, again, another cringe moment for people who regularly go to the hostels. But then you can have the hostel interview if you want, which is, where have you been? Where are you going? How long are you traveling for? Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Those kind of questions. So it's very easy to have some small talk with people in hostels. And people are usually very receptive to it because they're usually in the same boat.
Yep.
Like I've been in plenty of hostel rooms where I sure wasn't the only one that was traveling alone. And so, yeah, so that's very nice. Second of all, actually go on the activities that the hostels organize or any sort of organization in the city. So that's going to be pub crawls or day tours. So there's a lot of, like, for example, in a lot of big cities in Europe, you have the New Europe tours, which are really great. And they are entertaining because the people who guide them, they work for tips. So they need to, those guys are actually good to watch if you want to learn about making rapport with people, because they need to make rapport with everybody in their group as to get tips from everybody at the end of the tour,
Yeah.
So they have 3 hours to convince you to give as much money as possible. So that's actually a good type of person to study. So yeah, go on those. Go on pub crawls. Pub crawls, for those who don't know, they're usually, you pay like 10 or 20 euros. And there's some drink deals and you can get into the club easier and, with this group that you're hanging out with. So you're immediately like meeting all those people in the group and, it's very easy to meet all those people. Now, granted, all of these things that I'm saying are to meet other foreigners, which I don't see as a bad thing. It's just there are other people, and it's usually good as well because they also have nothing else to do besides, hang out and socialize. And so it's easier to find a fellow traveler on a Tuesday night to have beers with than a local person.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get more in touch with the locals, then there's plenty of resources for that as well. But the biggest one of all that's helped me for almost like 8 to 9 years now has been couchsurfing.
Oh, yeah.
So also most people know about the concept by now because it's been reported on plenty.
Yep.
But the idea, in short, is that you basically connect travelers with locals who want to like either share their city or even share a couch or a bed with someone. So you can travel on the cheap that way. And also, or just find people to show you around, like immediately have your local connection. So that's what I did. Like I stayed at the hostel, so I met a lot of people that way. I had sort of my insurance in that I would definitely have people to hang out with. And then I would just message people on couchsurfing to hang out. And yeah, I actually got some very, very cool experiences. That was the way for me, for example, to see more of the smaller villages, like meet like get introduced to that person's local social circle, things like that. So yeah, it was a good mix of things to do. So yeah, that was sort of my easy peasy friend making system in short.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, we'll probably do at least a whole episode and talk about couch surfing a lot because we both have lots of really cool experiences with that.
Oh yeah.
So there you have it, everyone. You know exactly now how to make friends quickly, how to practice these skills, whether you're traveling or you're getting ready to travel. And all the cool things that will be open to you in your life once you start implementing these things on a regular basis. This has been Brad Osborne and Mr. Dieter Anis for Advntrr. You want to say goodbye, Dieter?
Yes, I would love to. Goodbye.
There it is. There's Dieter's goodbye. Thank you so much for listening, and we're looking forward to talking to you again on the next Advntrr Podcast.